Good evening, everyone. How many of you are aware that when first discovered, the Americas had a population roughly double that of Europe? Many continue to view the New World, as seen by those early Europeans, as being sparsely populated. Recent research has indicated that the Americas were a vastly populated land, filled with rich and diverse cultures. In South America, two cultural centers dominated, the Tijuana and the Juarez. These city-states were settled in the Andean region. They had cities with populations over 100,000 people, and some of the buildings in those cities were over 6 stories tall. Paris did not see those numbers for another 500 years. In South America also there were population density centers in the Amazon region and further north in what is present-day Colombia. In Central America, the region was dominated by the Mayans and the Toltecs, and this was around 1000 AD. These were vast cities that covered usually about 20 square miles each. They were feuding, and they fought a lot of wars. And some of the things they discovered, they were the first ones to use the number 0 in numerical equations. They used the wheel, but only as a toy, not as a tool. They also had a very accurate calendar, 365 days long, that was more accurate than the one being used in Europe at the time. And millions of people lived in this small slot of land over here. In North America, it wasn't as populated as South America or Central America, but trade routes crisscrossed the continent. In Manitoba, they found mother of pearl that came from the Gulf of Mexico. They also found copper in Louisiana that came from as far north as the Great Lakes. One of the big cultural centers, roughly around 1000 AD also, was along the Mississippi in present-day St. Louis. This city was built 100 feet above the surrounding area and was about 15 acres in total. Through deforestation, constant flooding eventually wiped out that civilization. You also saw large population centers along the coast. On the East Coast, you mainly found it around North Carolina and the New England area. On the West Coast, you have a large amount of people in what is present-day Washington, Puget Sound area. The Native American population started declining a few hundred years before colonization by Europeans. They started to farm themselves out and use up all the resources in where they were, and they started migrating. The influx of European settlers pretty much sealed the doom of Native American culture. Through exploitation, war, and disease, many of the indigenous cultures were wiped from the planet. The early documented case of what was thought to be viral hepatitis swept through Massachusetts and decimated the native people. Over a 3-year period, beginning in 1616, this epidemic killed as many as 90% of the people in coastal New England. As we've seen, prior to colonization by Europe, the Americas was a land populated by many cultures and peoples. This is far from the sparsely peopled land that's told about in our parents' history books. The displacement and disease heaped upon these Native Americans rapidly led to an end to their way of life. Do you have any questions?
When did humans first start to settle in the Americas?
In many years, it was widely believed that they came over from Asia around 13,000 years ago and migrated from Canada across the Bering Strait through Central America into South America. The Bering Sea land bridge lasted for about 1,000 years, so that was the path that was chosen. But actually, what happened, what recent research has shown, is that sites in New Mexico, the Clovis area, they found evidence dating back 30,000 years. Also, sites that continue to pop up, some now in North Carolina, in the Peruvian Andes, and some regions in Belize also. Any other questions?
Did blast powder weapons provide a decided advantage to the Europeans in conflicts with Native Americans?
Not necessarily. The main advantage of black powder weapons was the shock effect. It was very loud and made a lot of noise and had a lot of flash to it. Bang. The arrows and bows used by the Native Americans at the time were far more accurate, could be shot a long more distance, and could actually punch through the armor that was worn by the early settlers. So indeed, the bow and arrow is actually more effective than black powder weapons. I hope I answered all your questions, and thank you.